Hello, citizens, and here we go again. Histories and Mysteries Redux, Interlude II, The Search for the Other Ark. This is the episode where we talk about the Ark of the Covenant. What is Redux? These are classes from the Histories and Mysteries series that I've been teaching at Sunday school at the church. I've kind of modified a few of them, chopped them up a bit, made them a little more palatable for online work. There's 2 interlude episodes. The first one, Interlude 1, is about Noah's Ark, and this is Interlude 2 about the Ark of the Covenant, both of which are a bit shorter and meant to be more a filler before we move on to other material. So it's Sunday school. Let's pretend. Grab your caffeinated beverage of choice. Pretend it's Woody's Fair Trade Blend. That's Pretty Good Joe. Take a seat in the back of the classroom in good Presbyterian fashion. And come on, it's Bill's classroom, so you got to look to the whiteboard for the terrible dumb joke. It's on the left-hand side there. Yep, there it is at the bottom. Yeah, that one's pretty bad. Okay, so it is Sunday school, Christian education event, so we have to have our passage of the day. This is Exodus 25, verses 10 through 16. They shall make an ark of acacia wood. It shall be 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. You shall overlay it with pure gold. Inside and outside you shall overlay it, and you shall make a molding of gold upon it all around. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them on its 4 feet. 2 rings on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side. You shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and you shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark, by which to carry the ark. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark, they shall not be taken from it. You shall put into the ark the covenant that I shall give you. The schedule so far. Well, this is what we've done. I had my big section on Christ to Constantine. You can go back and look at that. It's on YouTube. That was meant to complete a long series of classes that we were doing at the church, but because it had to be a wrap-up of that, it also had to include a synopsis of the entire class for people who had missed the first 7 classes. So that's a little long, a little dense, but go for it. Then we had Histories and Mysteries Redux 1, where I talked about basic Old Testament history. Histories and Mysteries Redux 2, where I talked about biblical archaeology. Interlude 1, which is Noah's Ark, and this is Interlude 2 on the Ark of the Covenant. So the much dreaded agenda, we're going to go through the opening prayer, we're going to do quick caveats and disclaimers, and then we're going to charge right in looking for the Lost Ark. The opening prayer, if you know it, say it with me. Dear Lord, even though Bill is teaching us, may we please learn something of value. Amen. Okay, just remember the goofball teaching this class is just a geologist and only really knows dirt, rocks, and water. All other information is suspect. You have been duly warned. So, charging right into locations of the Lost Ark. Well, Indiana Jones says it's really quite clear. It's in Nevada. Just in case you don't understand, again, the Ark of the Covenant is filled with the 10 Commandments and the wrath of God. Noah's Ark is filled with poop. First of all, the basics. The Ark of the Covenant contains the 10 Commandments. The commandments are stone tablets given to Moses by God. It's listed out and described in Exodus 25, verses 10 through 22. During the Exodus, the Ark was housed in a tabernacle, which is essentially a great big tent. So as the tribes moved through the wilderness, they packed up that tent. Think of it as a mobile temple. And then set it back down again. And every night, that's where the Ark of the Covenant spent the night, in the tabernacle. Yes, and Indy says it's in Nevada. The Ark is used as a weapon to help win the land of Canaan for the Israelites. Come on, they hauled it around the walls of Jericho. Joshua 6, chapter 6, verses 6 through 7. Go ahead and take a look at those. During the time of the judges, the ark was also kept in a tent, the tabernacle, at Shiloh, and it was still occasionally used as a weapon, but it was actually lost in battle. You read 1 Samuel chapter 4, verses 3 through 11. The Philistines captured the Ark of the Covenant. But apparently the Philistines were allergic to God. They got all kinds of filthy diseases and stuff like that. And after 7 months, they returned it. Said, here, take it back. That's in 1 Samuel chapter 5, verses 7 and 8. The ark is next housed in Kiriath Jearim, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly. King David will move the ark from that location to Jerusalem onto the Temple Mount. That is the highest point in the city of David area. It traditionally was a threshing floor, a high spot, a flat spot where you would thresh wheat, chuck the wheat up in the air after breaking off the seeds, and so the wind would blow the chaff away and then the seeds would fall to the ground. That's where David chose as the location for the temple. Solomon rebuilds the temple. We often refer to this as the first temple that housed the Ark of the Covenant. Oh, yeah, okay. Yes, right, we understand. In Las Vegas, in a warehouse, in the desert. David moves the ark into his temple at Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. Solomon rebuilds the temple, often called the first temple. Then the Queen of Sheba shows up, which leads us to the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia. The Orthodox Ethiopian Church claims that they currently have the Ark of the Covenant in a chapel in Aksum in Ethiopia. It has never been shown to the public, but they claim it's there. Okay, Indy, that's because they're, yeah, okay, they think it's in, all right, just, yeah, okay. It was supposedly given to the Queen of Sheba by Solomon. If you read 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 11, it talks about all the gifts that Solomon gives to the queen. And so according to Orthodox Ethiopian Church tradition, that included the Ark of the Covenant. Back to history. If the Ark stayed in the first temple, what then? 1 Kings chapter 14, verses 25 through 26. In the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem. He carried off the treasures of the temple of the Lord and the treasures of the royal palace. He took everything, including all the gold shields that Solomon had made. Okay, so according to Indiana Jones, Shishak took the ark to Tanis, and then he got it from the Nazis, and then the feds put it in a warehouse in Nevada. What do we know here? There was a pharaoh named Shishak I that people typically associate with Shishak. His capital was Tanis. He did conduct military campaigns in Canaan. He did bring back loot. However, Tanis was not covered over in a sandstorm like in the movie. Yes, I'm sure. The archaeological site of Tanis does exist. It's located in the Nile Delta. Here, hold on. I think this button right here. There we go. Ooh, there we go. Tanis was the political capital of Egypt from 943 to 716 BC. It was abandoned as a city in the 6th century AD. That's many centuries later, after being flooded. And the archaeological site of Tanis was actually buried under flood deposits, Nile River silt. If the ark was taken to Tanis, we have no idea where it went to from there. Yes, okay, maybe Nevada. If the ark was hauled off to Tanis, how come it's mentioned as being in Jerusalem later? 2 Chronicles 35, chapter 3. He, that is King Josiah, said to the Levites, who instructed all Israel and who had been consecrated to the Lord, put the sacred ark in the temple that Solomon, son of King of David of Israel, built. It is not to be carried about on your shoulders. Well, that would indicate that the ark did not get hauled off to Tanis. What if the ark hasn't taken to Egypt? Where did it go then? Hebrew tradition holds that the ark was hidden prior to the looting of the temple by the Egyptians, presumably on some kind of platform that could then be lowered down into the Temple Mount, which leads to the next location. No, not Nevada. The ark could actually be hidden under the Temple Mount to this day. Okay, some basic facts. We know there are tunnels and passages under the Temple Mount, chambers, void spaces. Currently, though, nobody can go down there and do anything about it because of the political situation. The Temple Mount is controlled by Arab authorities, and they're not letting anybody do anything. So, the ark potentially could still be hidden there, unless somebody else took it. Like? No, not off to Nevada. King Nebuchadnezzar. He conquered Jerusalem in 586 BC and hauled the Jerusalem population off into exile, or at least the cream of the population. 2 Kings chapter 25, 13 through 15. The Babylonians broke up the bronze pillars, the movable stands, the bronze sea that were at the temple of the Lord, and they carried the bronze to Babylon. They also took away pots, shovels, wick trimmers, dishes, and all the bronze articles used in the temple service. The commander of the imperial guard took away the censers and the sprinkling bowls, all that were made of pure gold or silver. We have some other evidence that it was hauled off to Babylon. The fourth book of Ezra. This is not the book of Ezra in the Bible, but it is in what we call the Apocrypha. It's a section of Hebrew texts that did not get included in the Christian Bible, but are still part of the Hebrew tradition. In the Apocrypha, it implies that the Ark of the Covenant was taken to Babylon. But wait, does that really make sense? I mean, according to Scripture, we had Jeremiah, the prophet. He was like a super prophet who told everybody everything that the Babylonians were going to do, that they were going to be coming down hard on Judah because of the bad things they were doing. Couldn't he have arranged to have the ark moved? No, not to Nevada. How about Mount Nebo? According to 2 Maccabees, again in the Apocrypha, chapter 2, verses 4 through 6, Jeremiah is told to hide the ark in a cave on Mount Nebo. Mount Nebo is currently in Jordan. It's a hill that overlooks the Dead Sea. This is traditionally the same location where Moses is believed to have given his last sermon and then to have died. The Babylonians destroyed the temple. They hauled the Jews off to exile. The Jews were allowed to return by the Persians. They rebuilt the temple, that is the second temple. Did they have the ark with them? Who is the next candidate for Raider of the Lost Ark? No. How about the ark goes to Syria? 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, 21 through 24. And verse 57 state that Antiochus plundered the temple. He hauled his loot off to Syria. Who? Antiochus was the Greek, or should we say Macedonian, general who ruled Syria. He was one of the generals for Alexander the Great, where his family was, that ended up controlling Syria after Alexander died and his empire broke apart. The Greeks were always marching through the area to beat the snot out of each other because there was the Ptolemies down in Egypt and the Seleucids in Syria, and they're constantly squabbling and fighting with each other, often over the Levant, Palestine, Jerusalem, however you want to call it. Now, having said that, there's no specific mention of the ark in this book. That is 1 Maccabees. So let's get back to where we were going here. The Maccabees establish an independent Jewish state. Herod moves in, makes a really awesome temple, completely rebuilds, renovates the temple. We still call it the Second Temple, but it's completely redone. The Romans move in behind Herod. Some guy named Jesus gets executed, roughly around 35 AD maybe. And then there's a huge revolt in 70 AD, and the temple is completely wiped out by the Romans. So maybe the Romans hauled the ark off to Rome. There are specific historical records of the loot being hauled off to Rome by Titus. But the ark is not on that list of records. So apparently by the time the Romans wiped out the temple and hauled all this loot off to Rome, the ark was lost previously to that. Yes, that's right. Caesar had a, and yes. So who's next? Next candidate? In 1099, the Crusaders conquered Jerusalem. After the Crusaders conquered Jerusalem, an order of monks or knights, monkish knights, the Knights Templars move into the Temple Mount complex. Hence their name, the Templars. They're named after the Temple Mount. Did they find the ark hidden in those chambers? If they did, where did they take it? To France? England? Ireland? Yes, Crusader Knights. Yes, that's the third move. Yes, that has nothing to do with Nevada. Okay, so let's go really bonkers here. It turns out that the Knights Templar became the bankers of Europe. They're originally set up as an order of warrior monks, warrior knights, to guard pilgrims as they went to the Holy Land. And then they set up chapter houses all throughout Europe. And what would happen is if you wanted to make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, you could take your money to the chapter house, hand your money over, and they would hand you a check. And then you would take that check to Jerusalem, and then at the Templars' main location at the Temple Mount, you would hand over the check, and they would hand you back cash. They, as a result, became the bankers of Europe. Now, it turns out in 1307, King Philip of France had the same problem that all the kings of France preceding him is that he was always bankrupt. And so he decides to come together with a new wealth transfer system where he transfers the wealth of the Knights Templars to himself and therefore arranges the destruction of the Templars. Now, according to legend, some knights escaped from the persecution and carried the secrets of their order with them. And they could have hidden the ark in some secret place. Yes, like Nevada. Well, no. Okay. So as a result, maybe some people argue that the Freemasons, who claim to have a heritage from the Knights Templar, are actually somewhere secreted away the Ark of the Covenant. So there are others who make claims to the Ark of the Covenant. Maybe a lost tribe of Israel took the Ark too? No, not Nevada. South Africa! Yes, genetic testing has shown that there is the presence of what they call the Cohen genetic marker in the Lemba people. This is a tribe in South Africa. In other words, here you are, a tribe in South Africa who have Jewish genes. They claim to be descendants of one of the lost Jewish tribes. This is probably as a result of either the Assyrian diaspora when the Assyrians wiped out the northern kingdom of Israel, or possibly a result of the Babylonian assault and diaspora where they carried away the people of Judah to Babylon. Lemba legend says they actually brought the ark back south with them to South Africa. In conclusion, though, nobody really knows where the Ark of the Covenant is. Well, except for Indiana Jones. And that's where we're going to stop this fine presentation. Everybody have a good day. We'll be posting more material next week. Have a good time.